All right. Give it a couple more minutes and we'll get started, guys. Making sure I'm recording per Anthony. Told me 17 times this morning to make sure I hit the record button. Good morning.
Good morning, Natalie.
How are you? Good. Good.
Are we recording?
We are recording, I believe. If not, I'm in big trouble. All right.
Thank you very much.
So I say let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on this. Full disclosure, I am an elder millennial, so technology, even though I grew up with it, it still evades me. I think we're good. Yeah, I think I'm recording to the cloud.
Yep, looks like
Excellent,
it.
excellent.
Awesome,
Haven't
awesome.
broken anything yet. This is a great start.
You can hear people if they have questions.
Yeah, Jay, and I can hear him over the
Okay,
speaker.
awesome.
Perfect. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Lindsay Keene, for those of you who don't know me. I've been with Keller Williams. This is my second full year. And we're going to be going over negotiations today, which is, believe it or not, my favorite part of any transaction. It tends to be people's least favorite part. You either love it or you hate it. So kind of an overview of what we're going to be doing today. We're going to break down and apply the tactics of common negotiation points. So kind of talking about how it applies to what we do. Analyze and recall counter tactics. So looking at it from all angles and what we should do in response to negotiations, and examine the negotiation strategy of the 3 Ps, which are prepare, present, and position. Right. So kind of keeping it easy for you. There we go. Running our business today, negotiation contracts. You guys know this. Okay, so going over the sort of outline of the day, the format of the day, we're going to break down the common points of negotiation. We're going to examine the 3 Ps approach to negotiation, analyze counter tactics, real play. So we're going to kind of do some role play. I like doing that kind of stuff. You guys probably hate it. Recap and create your success lists and daily success habits. So let's get started. All right, now we all know that negotiations are an integral part of our job. So how can your ability to negotiate affect the outcome of a deal? Jay, you can chime in too. Jay's been on been in Ignite a couple of times, I know.
Well, you try to
How can
get
your ability- Go ahead, say it again.
You try to get the best way you possible. You can get the client maximize his benefit. Like if he's trying to buy, he wants to get as the lowest price that you can. If your client is seller, you want to make sure whatever the market price, the best he can get for his property.
Absolutely. What about you guys? What you got for me? How can your ability to negotiate affect the outcome? Positively or negatively?
Well, if you're a poor negotiator, you're not gonna get the best deal you can for your client.
Yep, you're probably gonna be broke, huh? But if you're a great negotiator, right, you're gonna have a lot of different qualities that will allow for you to get the best deal. My favorite sort of cultural piece of Keller Williams is win-win or no deal, right? So the whole goal isn't necessarily to beat the other person, it's to make sure that everybody gets something that they're happy with at the end of the day, right? So that's my favorite part. What are some ways that you would negotiate in your everyday life? If you're married or have children, I'm sure that you can attest that everything is a negotiation, right? So we negotiate with our kids, it's bedtime, time to eat. We negotiate with our spouses, right? Who's gonna wash the dishes, those kinds of things. And what skills, what are some really good negotiation skills? What do you guys think that a good negotiator possesses skill-wise?
Listen.
That's a big one. That's a big one. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like you should compromise.
Ability to compromise. Okay. Jay, what you got?
Well, you maybe start with just give you example. You take price, then you say appliance, like take one at a time. Don't put everything at one time. Like if you want to negotiate.
Yeah. So skill set wise, listening, ability to compromise, right? Ability to sort of bend a little. I think that being confident is a big one, and being prepared is certainly a good. Running your comps, making sure you know your market, making sure that you know your client and what your client needs, whether you're on the buy side or the sell side. Being prepared is important as well. And why is asking questions? Because you mentioned it, listening. Why is asking questions important?
You find out what their needs are, and what their highest priorities are.
Right. Have you guys closed the deal yet? Have you done?
No.
No? Okay.
Look forward to it, even though I'm nervous.
It's okay. It is very nervous. It's a lot of information at once. It's really intimidating at first, but once you get it, you're good to go. I promise. So asking questions is also important because a lot of times it will build rapport with the other agent. So for example, if you're on the buy side and you're in a multiple offer situation, you're asking the listing agent, hey, what is most important to the seller? Or why is the seller moving? Or, kind of just feel them out, build a relationship with them. And believe it or not, a lot of times that will work for you in the long run. It'll help you down the road. If you do find yourself in a multiple offer situation, you've already built that rapport. So it could work in your favor there as well. But ask questions, it's important. Oops. Did I go too far? No, we're good. All right, so brainstorm negotiation issues. Once an offer is made, there are 3 possible outcomes. The offer can be accepted, rejected, or countered. If the offer is rejected or countered, that is where the negotiation skills can shine, right? So it's the most important part. We would break into small groups initially, but there's only 3 of you guys. So we're just gonna kind of do this together. I think is probably the best way to go. What are some, let's see, brainstorm negotiation issues that have potential of coming up during the buying or selling process? So since you guys haven't closed a deal, I'm interested in your perspective. What do you think that some situations would come up where you would need to negotiate in a deal? And let's start with the buyer side so that you're not kind of all over the place. So if you're on the buyer side, representing the buyer, what are some negotiations that would come up in a typical or in a transaction? There's no typical transaction in real estate. In a real estate transaction, what do you think?
If repairs were needed on the home, getting them to come down on the price.
Absolutely. Yeah, repairs. Absolutely. That's a big one.
Yeah.
I would say time frame.
Time frame? You want to elaborate on that a little bit?
So whether they in a hurry to get in, or if they need to sell a home first, or how that would work a time frame to get their stuff in order to be able to move in.
Absolutely.
And if the seller's ready to move out, so
Yeah, a lot of moving parts, right?
Right.
Absolutely. So on the buy side, you will negotiate repairs. You're going to negotiate a lot of things within the contract as well, right? So down payment, making sure that you know what their financial situation is. Appraisal period. If they're going to wait, especially now when we're in the seller's market that we're in, sometimes the appraisal period may get waived, which is dangerous. That's another thing.
Yeah.
But inspection period. So 10 days, 14 days, 3 days, what do they need, right? How quickly can you get in and get an answer for them to keep the transaction moving? So there's a lot of things you can negotiate on the buy side. What if you're on the seller side? If you're on the listing side, what would you negotiate?
Closing costs.
What you got, Jay?
I'd probably say closing costs, but I don't know, like maybe support some buyer if they don't have enough money to say come up with closing or something like that. Incentivize
Absolutely.
to buy him.
Closing costs is a big one. Absolutely. You would negotiate, sometimes you would have to negotiate your commission, right? Negotiate what repairs they're going to do on the front end. Negotiate how flexible they're going to be within there. So having those conversations with them on both sides is very important. Very important.
I would think making sure the buyers are qualified,
That's a big one.
especially with this market now. I mean, all sellers know that, the next person coming along probably gonna buy.
Let me ask you, would you show a buyer a property that's not pre-qualified by a lender? Good answer.
Not right now.
Not right now.
So you mentioned something about the appraisal being waived.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. But in like a real tight, where it's like multiple offers,
Yeah.
we're seeing situations where appraisals are being waived. It's very tricky. And it's something I would definitely talk about with your lender to make sure that that would be feasible for them, because not all buyers would be able to do that. But you can actually negotiate that portion of the contract as well.
Okay.
Yep. So let's see. Common points of negotiation, obviously price, that's the biggest one, right? That's always the biggest thing on people's mind. How much money are we walking away from the table with? Or how much can we purchase this house for? So price is always kind of the big one. What are some other things you can negotiate within the terms of the contract? Have you guys read through a contract yet?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Home warranty.
Absolutely, absolutely. What else?
Probably one count.
I know you do.
So your inspection period would be another one.
Yeah,
What's gonna stay in the house, what's gonna go, that kind of thing. When you're gonna close, so
Mhm.
making sure that you have a clear idea of that.
Mhm.
Because sometimes sellers will want a sooner closing. They might need one like you were talking about before. They might need a sooner closing to get to their next step, whatever they're doing. So there's certain, make sure you know your contracts. That's the biggest thing. Have y'all taken that contract class with Chris yet? Chris Morris?
Yeah, early on.
Take it as much as you can. I love that
Yeah.
class.
I know. I'm
She's really good at
She
it.
is very thorough.
Yeah,
I
she's
enjoy
fantastic.
that.
She's fantastic. Jay, what you think? What are some other terms that can be negotiated?
I guess I'm thinking like we already have covered the closing, right? Maybe owner financing or something like that. Sometimes
Oh,
they
yeah,
don't getting
that's-
might say, hey, I might finance part of the whatever or whole thing, something like that, but I'm not getting finance.
Yeah, that's a unique scenario for sure. That could be negotiated.
Is it? Can I ask you, like, is it there are possibility that they can get some finance and owner can do second? Is it something that people do that?
Ask it one more time.
Does, let's say, buyer get the finance, but still like not enough, or maybe not qualified, or he not getting enough money. Does the seller can do second mortgage with something like that?
That is not something that I'm familiar with, so I don't want to speak to it. I would definitely have that conversation with a loan officer
Okay.
and or a title attorney, because they'll probably be able to help you way better than I would be able to speak to that. Owner financing is not something I've dealt with personally yet, but I know if you deal with investment properties and things like that, that's where it's going to come up. Have you come across it yet, Jay?
No, I'm just asking. Even that question just came right now to me. Like, I mean, either it can be either one, or it can be some of them. Like what I'm saying, I don't know. Some like maybe appraised value come in the issue. Like let's say appraised didn't enough, and buyer still wants to have it properly. Let's tell them, say, hey, go ahead and get this, and I might do the second one with whatever if you really wants to buy something
Like a
like that.
wraparound mortgage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely talk to a loan officer about that if you come across that scenario for sure. All right. So a lot of this requires finding partners and grouping off. We're going to try to do this in a not that way. Let's see. Let's see, what page are you guys on? Your page 5, I believe, where we are.
Yeah.
Take a look at this, so I know what I'm looking at. Okay, cool. So common points in negotiation. Okay, so it says to break off in a pair of 2, 1 to 2. But I think that what we can do is certainly just kind of go over this and see if you guys have any questions about anything. Let's see, reading tips, look back page 5, blah, blah. This is good, kind of a role play thing. All right, so let's run through a scenario. I'm the seller and you guys are on the buy side. You're representing buy side, okay? You've made an offer, let's say 125, okay? What are some of the terms that you would want to negotiate within that contract? So you mentioned home warranty earlier.
Yes.
That's great.
Mhm.
Now I'm going to say, I'm not going to pay for home warranty. I've already replaced all the major systems in the home. It looks good. How would you respond to that with the seller or with the listing agent?
Well, I would like a portion of it covered. at
Okay.
least.
Okay. What else would you negotiate within the contract? If you're on the buyer side,
Right.
we're under contract, we're going under contract at 125, you're writing your offer, you want a home warranty, but the seller's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. What other things would you maybe negotiate within there?
For the appliances to remain.
Appliances to remain, that's
Uh-huh.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um,
So did we agree on the price yet? Or
125,
did we agree? That's what you said.
okay.
Closing cost.
it's a big one. So how much are you gonna ask for?
So what it typically, how much?
So the FHA loans, I believe it's 3%.
Okay.
Is that right?
It can be.
3%, up to 3%?
That's coming back so wonky this year.
Yeah.
Before I even negotiate that, I have to call the lender.
The lender,
and see
for
what it's
sure,
gonna
yeah.
be. And then the title company and get their thing, and then I kind of know.
Yeah. So each loan type will allow for a certain amount for you to be able to ask. It can be up to 6%, it can be up to 3%, that kind of thing. But right now in this market, just be aware of how much you're asking for and maybe have that conversation on the front end with the listing agent. Hey, you know, they really want this house, but they're going to need this assistance.
Right.
Is there another way that we can sweeten the deal for the seller? Because this is super important to the buyer. So kind of having those conversations and seeing how you can work it out, because when you tell a seller, we would like, you know, $7,000 in closing cost assistance and the house is worth 125, you know, it can be a little bit tricky right there.
Right.
So just being aware of that and having those conversations and making sure that you do know how important that is to your buyer so you can leverage that as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else that y'all would negotiate in the contract? So you said
So could you
appliances.
possibly go for like, on that, closing costs, could you say, you know, what about if we split the closing costs?
Yeah, absolutely. You could, yeah, well, you could say, absolutely, you know, you contribute 3%, the buyer will take care of the rest or whatever. You can absolutely negotiate up or down with your, just make sure that you know your max so that you're not over that, what the lender will allow.
Okay.
But Braun makes a good point. What you got?
Just something that we've seen a lot this year, and I think it's unusual with the closing costs. I think the low interest rates brought people to the market who can afford a monthly payment on a higher house than previously they could, but they didn't know they were buying this year, so they're credit worthy and cash poor. So the last 4 offers I've had, they've asked for all closing costs. And then the conversation with the agent became was, which is more important to them, list price or closing costs? And if we had the house price where it would appraise higher, on a couple of occasions, we've actually increased over asking enough to let my sellers include. It's tricky because you've got to be sure it will appraise.
Right.
To do that. But sometimes we're not even this year where we can split that in half because we've had a history of kind of meeting in the middle.
Right.
And encouraging our sellers to do that. But now before we do that, we have to determine, will the buyer have to walk away? You know, is it that they have no cash to close? And
Right.
I've had 2 loans come back where the lender actually wrote in their pre-qualification is contingent upon the seller paying all closing costs. So
That's good.
it's
Clarity
not
up front.
Something I've seen before this year.
Right.
Or rather before last year.
Right.
So,
So Jay, I don't know if you heard Brahma, but she makes a good point that our pool of buyers this year, or this sort of go around with this market right now, is that they are credit worthy and cash poor, is that how you put it? Yeah. So essentially they didn't know they were buying this year. And as far as their cash reserves, they may not have enough to put down. So they're going to have to ask for closing cost assistance. So making sure that you're very clear on how that would be negotiated, what they need on the front end. Does your, is your lender aware? Do they, of course they should be. Have they conveyed that to you exactly how much they're going to need to close? It's the only way to make the deal work. And then also building those closing costs into the asking price or the list price of the home. So for example, we're under contract for 125, but you guys need $5,000 in closing costs. The way you would write that is 130 for the build it into the cost of the home, right? But making sure, absolutely, like Bronwyn said, making sure that that will appraise for that amount, because otherwise you're gonna have to go back and do a price reduction, then nobody's happy because then the deal could be off, right? So you've gone through all that 3-4 weeks into the deal, everybody's done inspections and they put, close to $1,000 down in inspections and appraisal, and then the house doesn't appraise, and you come back and tell the seller, hey, remember that $5,000 we asked for? We're gonna need to reduce the home by that much because it's not appraised, right? So just making sure that or feel confident in something like that. And there's always people that can help you out with that. If you run across that scenario, don't hesitate to ask one of the other agents, contact an appraiser, just to get an opinion, see how they feel about it. Okay.
It seems like
Can you connect the iPad thing? Like if anybody else try to connect?
Say that one more time, Jay.
If anybody wants to join, can you try to see if anybody requesting to connect, like Jay iPhone or something like that?
Oh, yes. Let's see. Thank you, Jay.
we can't see that.
Hi, iPhone. I don't know.
Thank
who's
you.
there.
I listen better.
Is that you?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know who it was.
But somebody else might will try too, but sometimes.
No, I know. Thank you for looking out, because I don't, like I said, in technology. All right. But yes, Bronwyn, that's a fantastic point. That's something I've definitely come into right now. Recently, just for story's sake, a house in Beauchene, it was going to be like a 10 multiple offer situation. House is listed at $400,000. It's in fantastic shape, which is kind of rare in Beauchene. We offered at 405, and that was the only reason why we won that deal. because the listing agent accidentally sent me the other contract and said we were exempted. So I got to see what we were up against, but we only won that deal. The deals that were, the contracts were identical, but the only reason why I won that deal was for $5,000 over asking. And I mean, the equity in that home is ridiculous, but it was a unique scenario where we had to get creative to make sure that we were going to get the edge on that deal because we knew we were competing with a lot of buyers. It's a fantastic home. So just kind of being creative, making sure that you are working, thinking outside the box to make sure that everybody's happy. Right? And we actually got a home warranty on that deal too, which was weird. I was excited about that.
It seems like it goes back to making sure you're communicating with your buyer. See
Absolutely.
what they're able to do, what they're not able to do.
And one thing you don't ever want to do with your buyer is assume, because that's very dangerous, especially in a financial situation. Always ask, you know, if you and the listing agent are talking and you're discussing, you know, what can they do? What can they do? Even if you know, take a moment, pause, call them and ask, because circumstances could change. The things that are important to them could shift at any point during the transaction. So making sure that you're constantly in communication with them, even if you do think you know exactly what their limits are, what they're capable of, still call them. Take that moment to pause and give them a chance to speak for themselves. All right, examine the 3 P's approach to negotiation. Negotiation is a skill that can be learned and perfected with experience. The best practice for negotiating and bringing the buyer and seller together is the 3 P's approach. So prepare, right? Know your goal, know your client, think ahead, set clear expectations, be informed, obey the laws. That's a big one they teach us in school for sure. And know the documents inside and out. So of these, my favorite thing is the knowing the documents, because if you know your documents inside and out, there's no question. If you write your contracts according to the way they should be written, there's no question, there's no mincing of words. Everybody's pretty clear on that. But knowing your goal. So what's the goal? If you're on the buyer side, the goal is to get them in a house for as cheaply as possible, right? If you're on the listing side, it's to get the seller as much money as possible, right? So know your goal, but also know that is the money the most important thing to them? Is it more important that they get in the home on the buy side than spending the least amount of money, right? So be clear on your goal. And it rolls into knowing your client. Okay, we just talked about that, making sure that you communicate effectively with your client to know all scenarios. I love to kind of run through fake scenarios. Okay, so what if this happens, right? So how are you going to respond to that? That way you kind of know what's important to them.
That's good.
Yeah, I like scenarios. It's fun. Think ahead. All right. So if you know your transaction from start to finish, you know what your process is going to be. You know that you're in a multiple. My favorite thing. You know you're in a multiple offer situation. You're on the buyer side. Go ahead and call your inspector. When is your next available appointment so that you can get your inspections done as quickly as possible, right? Go ahead and pencil me in for that. If you know you could potentially be going on a contract, get your people together and making sure that everybody's on the same page ahead of time. It makes it go so much more smoothly. It buys you that much more time when you can do your inspection early on in that period. You may be able to actually negotiate that period down to give you an edge on that offer. Right? Set clear expectations. So that's also, it's not only with yourself, your client, it's also with the other agent. So making sure that everybody's clear in their expectations on what the end result of this process is going to be, right? So again, effective communication. Being informed. So being informed of your buyer, your client's needs, being informed of the market, being informed of the area, being informed of your contract, being informed of your comps, right? Knowing what they're going to go for, especially on the listing side. So knowing what to expect, because sellers know now, they've been trained over the past year. List high, sell high, you're getting over asking, everything's multiple offer, but sometimes they want to get crazy, right? And you got to kind of bring them back. Like, okay, look, we can ask for $40,000 over list price, over comp price, but we're going to be sitting for a little bit. And you're also completely wiping out an entire demographic of buyers that could potentially afford your home. And then it's going to sit and get stale, right? So making sure that you're informed, and they may not agree with you. They probably won't. They want all their money, right? But the thing is, you know, and you've told them on the front end, this is what you can expect. So being informed in your market is extremely important, especially with the comps. Obey the laws. I feel like that goes without saying. And know your documents inside and out. So again, know your contracts, read through them, make sure that, and I read my contracts like 7 times before I even send an offer, because I want to make sure I don't miss anything, because anything could be detrimental. If you miss one little thing, it'd be detrimental to your offer, especially in this market right now. All right. Asking questions is key to gaining information to win a negotiation. Asking open-ended questions is super important. So whenever I have a multiple offer situation and I'm on the buy side and I know this home is going to go quick, I get on the phone with the other agent. Hey, what's important to this client? What is it that, what do you feel we could do to give us an edge? And they may not tell you because some people won't. But sometimes you get people talking and you can find out way more than you ever wanted to know on a deal. So asking open-ended questions, building that rapport can really work in your favor sometimes. What is important about closing in 30 days? Do the sellers need to be out? Are they relocating to a different state? What's going on, right? How do you feel about that? I love that one. How do you feel about that? Why is that important to you? And how do you feel about that? Those are the two biggest things, because it's telling that you're connecting with them on an emotional level and you're able to better understand how much emotional attachment is here and mitigate from there, right? So closed-ended questions. That's going to be yes or no stuff. Do you have to sell your home by a specific date? Do you have any other offers? What is the bottom line price you would consider, right? So it's always important to call your other agents and ask them, do you have any other offers working, especially right now? I had an agent send me one out of the blue the other day and then get upset because we were under contract, but she didn't call me ahead of time and tell me. So she spent 45 minutes writing an offer that didn't even go to backup. So call your agents, make sure that you guys know that you're communicating with them and that you're not wasting anybody's time, because that 45 minutes could have been spent showing another house that they can get, right? What would happen if, so again, talking about scenarios, I love this. What would happen if we didn't win this bid? Would you want to do a backup offer? Would you want to move on to another house, right? Do we need to completely reevaluate this after 5 or 6 offers not getting accepted in this market? And why is this important to you? Why is it important to you to get this price? That's a big one on the listing side. Why is $40,000 over asking important to you? And it's usually because so-and-so told them that they could get that much for their house. And so-and-so usually is not a realtor or appraiser. Prepare. Ask questions to clarify and set clear expectations, right? So they're saying read the scenarios on page 9. We can use them as a template if you'd like. Here we go. Ooh, I love this. Okay. You are representing a single buyer. Your client is renting her present property. Like any first-time buyer, she's looking to you to guide her through the process. The asking price for the home she really loves is $175,000. The house appears to have evidence of a roof leak. It's listed as is and is correctly priced. Your client would like to keep her payments as low as possible since she still has a number of student loans to pay off. She wants to write an offer for $155,000. There's been quite a bit of activity in the listing. What would you ask the client?
If she can't go higher than 155, considering there are going to be multiple offers.
Right. What would happen if?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was saying, how important is the roof?
Right.
Can it last another couple of years while you get in the home and then you can take care of it a couple of years?
Right. What would happen if we wrote an offer for $155,000 and it got rejected? What would happen if we wrote the offer for $175,000, went to inspections, and realized there was a lot more with the home? And we could ask for a price reduction. Different, like what other scenarios would you guys ask? Jay, you got anything for me? What would you ask the client who wants to write a $155,000 offer
Well,
on a house that's
like
as is?
before you put the offer, you can ask the agent, hey, how old is the roof, and what are the chances that they can give us a new roof? Just she asked them.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you ask the client, other than not the listing agent, but the client?
Well, you ask them that, hey, you rather buy like in this condition and fix you up afterwards, or you rather have the seller fix and you don't have to worry about fixing, depending on his knowledge and expertise.
I would also ask, would you, if we got an offer accepted at $155,000, would you be willing or be able to replace the roof? Knowing that we're going into this scenario and the agent or the listing agent has said that the house is being sold as is, no repairs. Are you prepared to do any repairs at $155,000? Because I know you want to keep your payments low, but you may be walking into a scenario that we can't get any repairs. Are you going to be able to afford whatever comes up in that inspection? Right. Anything from you, Brian? I'm always curious about your perspective.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh yeah, sure. What would you ask a buyer client who's put an offer in at 155 on a house that's 175 being sold as is. They want to keep their payments low. They got a ton of student loans. They want to keep their payments under a certain amount. What would you ask that buyer?
At first, I would ask if they would give me permission to speak for a
Mm-hmm.
I always ask, and you rarely work with somebody who won't let me. Because if they're keeping secrets from me, I cannot truly negotiate.
Right.
I mean, and a lot of people are private, but that's important. But if they're going in and if it is a lowball offer, I would ask them to look at all the comps first. Let's discuss this and let's know what your odds of getting that are. Because it completely depends on what year. Some years you get away with that, some years you can't. But I'm not sure where you were going with that, honestly.
It's just an exercise, just to kind of, no, it's just brainstorming, trying to find out what people's perspective are. I would also ask, are we potentially shopping in the wrong price range for you? Because if it's important for you to be at 155, we probably shouldn't be looking at houses at 175 as is, right? Because then you're just setting yourself up for heartache. And keep in mind, even if you know it's a low ball offer, you do have to write that offer. You have a fiduciary responsibility to write that offer, even if it makes your chest shudder and your stomach hurt, you still have to write that offer.
It's not gonna be accepted.
Right, even if you know, and the responsibility we have is to explain that to them. There is a very good chance this offer will not be accepted, but I want to prepare you for that. I'm happy to write this offer for you, but I want you to understand that could potentially happen. What you got, Ron?
And it's a fine line of how do you present that to your representation or your client, because you're wanting to call the other agent and say, I am so sorry, I know we're lowballing you, and you can't do that.
No, because then you're setting up to be countered.
You are, you have to present it and almost defend your reasons for presenting it without insulting the other person.
In fact, it's better to say nothing.
It is.
Say nothing.
There it is.
Here's the offer. Thank you so much. Please let me know if you have any questions. Kindest regards, Lindsay King.
Well, it seems very unlikely the offer would be accepted, given that there, probably gonna be multiple offers.
Unless we don't know what the other multiple offers are,
That's
right?
Yeah.
You could be competing with other $50,000 under asking
That's
offers.
true. Good point.
The buyer, it may be a succession property and they just want to sell it off and get the hell out. They could be out of state. You don't know what the motivator is for that seller. So make sure that you say absolutely nothing when you send that low ball offer, because it could be something they accept.
Yeah.
If you come in like, I'm so sorry, they're going to know that you think it's a low ball offer. They're going to know that they can counter that because you are respecting it. What you got?
Right now, we just listed another house this week from a seller who shocked me, like selling on the sell side. This woman came in and called me and she insulted us. I mean, this is a completely renovated home by a guy who does beautiful work, amazing work. And she called and she was like, well, we just don't like it. We just don't like it. So we're not going to offer you very much. Don't ever say that on your phone.
That's not a good idea.
She was trying to negotiate for her clients in the wrong way. But the point is I had another tough call. I didn't want to repeat what she said. And I didn't want to work with her at that point, but that wasn't my place. We had the house listed at 235. They made us an offer of 205. My clients accepted it immediately. They had fought me on listing it lower where it needed to go. We weren't really over market value, but I was trying to allow. You could have knocked me over with a feather, but the point is they accepted it and were happy. And I would have thought we're all wasting our time.
Right.
So we never know. I could have killed the deal if I told them.
Absolutely, you could have, because they would have gotten emotional about it.
So this is the one that was so insulting. Offered
The other
$285.
agent was insulting. And the point is, she was not fun to work with. The entire way down, because that's the way she prefaced everything. But in my head, I had to just say, well, so she's not well trained. That's who she is. Let's just get this thing done. And we did, and it closed, and everybody was happy. But so there's a lot of finesse in how you present something as an agent. So that's your job.
It's better to listen than speak most of the time.
We will make it or break it.
And guess what? It's not about us. 100% of the time, it's not about us, guys. So Ron makes a very good point. As much as I would want to tell that other listing agent, what's wrong with you? I'm sorry you don't like the aesthetic, but it's not worth less than $30,000 because y'all don't like the color brown. Like, that's ridiculous, But if I said that and I told my sellers that, they're already upset because they spent all that money to renovate the house. They have an emotional attachment to that renovation, right? And when we don't want to work with anybody who doesn't want this house and wants to live here and love it, right? So you could really, she makes a fantastic point. So talk less, listen more is always a good way to go in that phase.
The question they asked me, we'll get rid of a lot spot is, do you think, as my agent, that I can get a better offer if I reject this one? Another tricky one, because I had to say, I can't read the future.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we could. I think it's worth more. I think we could, but this also might be the only offer you get. That's like, you have to take it. You have to take that out of it, and because then it's their decision as to whether or not they're gonna reject that, walk away, and continue to list it. So.
Yeah.
I would even hit them with the 2 follow-up questions. Do you think your home is worth more than 205? Right? So don't answer the question, just ask them a question in response. Do you think it's worth more? And are you happy? Would you be able to be happy with 205? If this was the only offer we got, would you be happy walking away from the deal with 205?
Yeah.
So don't answer it, just ask them more questions.
Yeah.
Put it back in their court, right? So then you're not responsible for what happens after that. That's on them.
So did you say that you thought that it was worth, did I understand?
We run the comps. I knew it was worth a good 20
Right.
grand more.
Right.
I knew the person who was presenting the offer was probably one of the people who's shopping at the top of their market.
Yeah.
Like she was shopping homes that she could not afford.
Right.
So that's just one of those weird situations where it worked out.
That's amazing.
If I had been her agent, I wouldn't even shown her the house.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Incredible. How long
Absolutely.
was it on the market?
3 days.
Oh.
But that's why, every ounce of me was saying, hold out.
Right.
But my clients were willing to do that, and they were happy with it, and that was their decision to make. It shocked me, but it wasn't about me.
Yeah.
And that's another scenario, kind of spidering off of that, where the seller net sheet would come in handy, right? So knowing what their bottom line is, if they're willing to do that with you, so that you can have a good idea of, okay, well, 205's, probably about 20,000 less than what we would have asked for or been okay with, but I know that they're willing to go down to X amount. So I'm going to present this confidently
Yeah.
and say as little as possible and just see what happens, right?
Right.
Absolutely. I love this. I love this. I love these scenarios. I feel like I had another point I wanted to make. but I lost it.
Sellers, and buyers, they would tell you where they're willing to go, or do they keep that close to their chest?
Everybody's different. I give them the option. I tell them, you're welcome to keep all of your financial and personal information to yourself. Absolutely. I will tell you that it is easier for me to represent you to the fullest extent if I know what's going on. Do you mind if I speak to your lender? Would that be okay with you? So that we can all be on the same page and make sure that we're getting you the best deal possible, right? And they may say, no, I don't want you talking to my lender, I want you to my financial, it's not your business. And that's fine, that's okay. But be prepared to not be butthurt about that, because it's not about you, it's how they feel about their financial situation, right? It's just the way it is. Another point I wanted to make too is if that were my inclination, would have been to counter at full price or counter at asking. Because a lot of times I've seen this, especially in New Orleans, where people are moving in from out of town and want to get a second home or a vacation home. And they're going to had this happen to me in the Irish Channel not long ago. They offered $65,000 under asking, confidently. And so we countered with full price. He got very upset with me. It was a long story, but nonetheless, it was multiple offer at that point. We've been on the market for about 60 days. We've been on the market for a bit, and he came in with a low ball offer, presented to the sellers. They were like, let's counter. So we countered at full price. In the meantime, another offer came in. We ended up accepting that one. So you never really know. If you counter at full price, it could be lowballing you, but could go above that. Right? So you come back at full price, put the ball back in their court and say, come with your highest and best, right? So make sure that you're looking at all options of how to strategize and work in your client's best interest, for sure. I don't like to reject deals. I hate, unless it's like multiple offer, we've already accepted another one. That's the only time I like to reject a deal. Keep the ball in play. Always counter. Always encourage your client to counter. Don't ever just let them shut down. Try to keep them moving, because you never know what can happen after that.
A lot to learn.
Yeah, it's a lot. And it's even harder, I think, when you haven't done the transaction, because you don't have a scenario to relate to.
Yeah,
I had a lot of problems with that in the beginning. That was my biggest hang up, was like, I don't know what I don't know. So it's scary, right? But it's okay. It'll come. I promise. They told me this 1,000 times in the beginning and I didn't believe them, but it did. And one day it just kind of clicks and you're good to go. It takes about 1 or 2 transactions, but you'll get it. I promise.
Okay.
I promise. It's going to be fun. All right, let's see. So present. Pay attention to verbal and or nonverbal cues, right? So if you've got a seller who, this is a succession property, it's their parents' property, their parents just passed away, right? There's obviously a lot of emotional ties to this home. They're going to have to clean out their parents' home. They're going to go through and walk down memory lane, making sure that you understand and are sensitive to how they might be feeling about this, right? So call it out. I understand it's meant to be a very emotional process for you. If there's anything I can do to help you with that, please just let me know. Just kind of feel them out, right? Keep quiet once you present an offer. We just went over this. Present your offer, even if it's a great offer, don't say anything. Just give it to them.
Yeah.
And be quiet. Listen carefully to what is important to the other party. Again, building that rapport with the other agent. Now, some agents may not want to be warm and fuzzy with you. Some agents are surprised that you want to be warm and fuzzy with them. I highly encourage it. Call them, build that rapport, be sweet to them, be nice to them, because you never know how that might work out for you down the road. If you're in a multiple offer situation and you got a bunch of ugly realtors being mean to this listing agent or being competitive or being stubborn, but you're the only one that called and was nice, guess whose offer is going to get chosen? Because they want to work with you, and they'll talk to their sellers and they'll say, hey, this is going to be a smooth transaction. This agent's fantastic. I've done it.
Yeah.
You know, why would you set yourself up for a bunch of headache with a challenging person if you know that you've got someone on the equal level from a financial standpoint who's going to be kind to you, who's going to make this transition easier for you, right? Stay calm and relaxed. Ooh, that's a big one for me. I have a tendency to get heated, but I've learned that I have to, it's not about me, right? So that's the thing. You do get an emotional attachment to your sellers. You do get an emotional attachment to your buyers. I do anyway. And it's important to me that I get them exactly what they want as quickly as possible. So if somebody comes back with something insulting, it's not about me. It's a business transaction, right? So I got to remove those emotions from it. And if you stay calm and ask questions as opposed to why the hell did you do this? Then, you know, it's going to be a lot easier for everybody. Exactly. Remember that because it is an emotional process for everybody involved, right? Focus on the customers or your clients' needs, right? So focusing on that, that's the bottom line. As emotional as you want to get and reactive as you want to get, the bottom line is, does this give my person what they want, right? And give your offer the best chance, right? Ask what and how questions. Buyer wants to close in 60 days. Seller wants to close in 30 days. All right, so Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're requesting a 30-day closing. What is important to you about closing in 30 days? Again, understanding that from the front. If your client becomes defensive, you would explain. My goal is to let the buyer know why this point is important to you, right? So a lot of times people will escalate and you just got to say, look, I understand. I just want to make sure that I'm telling the other side that this is super important to you and that we can get you what you need, right? Page 12, page next. All right. Another scenario. The property has 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, and is listed at $350 in a well-established neighborhood. The house requires new carpeting throughout the first floor and a new garage door opener. 3 offers have been made, but all are below the asking price. So you're on the buyer's side. Your buyers are making an offer of $340. Sorry, so $10,000 under asking for the house. They have been pre-approved. The buyers would like to close in the shortest possible time since they are moving out from out of state and need a home for their family. Since they are leaving their appliances in their current home, the buyers would also like all the appliances to be included. Listing agent role. Your sellers have raised their family in the house you are selling and have many friends and family in the area. Since their children are now grown, they no longer need the amount of space their current home provides and have purchased a home in Florida. They would like to give all appliances to their daughter, who has just gone through a divorce. They will not be moving until they have sold their current house. And although they would like to get to Florida as soon as possible, they are ready to stand their ground regarding the price. All right. So now you get kind of an eagle-eye view of the entire transaction, and you get to see from both sides what's important. All right. So say you're on the buyer agent side, and you call me or we talk about an offer, and I'm on the listing agent side, and you say, hey, you know, we're 10,000 under asking, and they want the appliances. All right. So I would tell them the appliances won't be available. And in fact, I'll probably put that in the MLS on the front end just to go ahead and prevent any of that. But people still ask. So the appliances won't be available. Is there anything else that we can do to mitigate that? Right. So what can we do to find the middle ground here? Right. They're going 10,000 under asking. They want all the appliances. We can't do that. So how important are the appliances to the buyers? Would they be able to afford right? So on the buy side, will they be able to afford the appliances when they move in? Make sure that they don't go buying a bunch of appliances on a credit card before the deal's closed, because then you're going to mess your lending up, right? So just being able to understand, how important are the appliances? How important is that $10,000? And the time frame too. So I like this. I like this scenario. You can see it from all of it. Right. Analyze counter tactics. Oh, did I go too far? What did I do? Sorry. Okay. Analyze counter tactics. All right. With a partner, reach tactic, brainstorm tactic. I'm assuming this is in your, aha, it is, page 13. All right. With a partner, read each tactic and the accompanying action, brainstorm a counter tactic that you think could be used in that situation. So we're just going to do this together. All right. So number one, nibbling. Once your client has agreed upon one major concession, the other party will start nibbling for additional smaller concessions. All right. So counter tactic, hot potato nibbling, good guy, bad guy. I love this. Ask for a concession in return before agreeing to any further concessions. Test the validity. Find out if the problem is real. Has the party with the problem exhausted every possible solution? Call them on their game. If it continues, then attribute what the bad guy says to the good guy, since they're a tag team anyway. This likely will diffuse the tactic because now you have two bad guys. I love this. Okay. So once your client has agreed upon one major concession, the other party will start nibbling for additional smaller concessions. So say you want to get the HVAC replaced, right? You're on the listing side. The buyer comes and says, we need a brand new HVAC to close this deal. Seller agrees reluctantly, but then they want all the window treatments, and then they want all the stuff in the backyard, and then they want this fixed, right? So having that conversation with the other agent, hey, look, they're willing to do this, but you're not going to get much further with repairs or concessions, right? So just making sure that you're clear and upfront with the agent on the other side, because it's gonna stop allowing the buyer to think that they can continue to do this. It's gonna kind of nip that in the bud, and it's also gonna let you know, hey, this is kind of where we are ready to move. This is the end of the line for us. We're gonna do this. We're willing to do that, but that's it. Okay. The other party tries to pass a problem onto you. For example, the co-op agent tries to pass all closing costs to your client because their client can't afford them.
We already made the concession on the air conditioning side.
Well, I think this might be a separate scenario, maybe. Yeah, this is separate. Excuse me.
So wouldn't that be the same scenario that we talked about before, where you would do it in the asking price and make the adjustment there if it could appraise for that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So they're going to say, my clients can't afford the closing costs. Fantastic. Can they afford the extra $200 or whatever it's going to be to build that into the price? Right. Two people working together, example, a husband and wife, will take on opposing roles. One appears friendly and considerate, you will come across this, while the other behaves in a difficult or aggressive manner. Excuse me.
For real? That happens?
It happens. It happens. Absolutely. Absolutely. Think of the typical car salesperson, good guy, who says his manager, bad guy, won't let him reduce the price any further, right? So the husband says, my wife won't let me take anything less than this, right? That will happen, right? So how do you counter that? The suggestion would be to test the validity, find out if the problem is real. Is that really the problem? Or is that just, you don't want to cause conflict? Okay. Are you actually able truly to go lower? Are you willing to lose the deal over this $5,000, right? Has the party with the problem exhausted every possible solution, right? So if the issue is you want to come down $5,000, you've done inspections, you need a price reduction of $5,000 in order to validate what the buyers feel is a good value for the home. The listing agent says, well, the wife won't let the husband, the husband's fine with it, but the wife says no. Okay. Well, how do we fix that? Right? How do we change the mindset of what's going on? How do we get everybody on the same page? Right.
We don't go talk to the wife?
No,
You
I would never get
I'm
talked to.
not talking-
That sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about talking to the agent, you can't speak to the wife and then possibly get them to come up to our price.
I would say, is the wife willing to walk away from this deal or give up on this deal? I love that. Are they willing to give up on this deal over $5,000? Because a lot of times when you put it in that perspective,
Right. Yeah.
Realize it's getting ready to fall through.
right?
Uh-huh.
Look, my buyers need this. This is where it's at. You know, your roof's falling apart. They're going to replace this or that.
Mhm.
We want a $5,000 price reduction. Husband says it's fine. Wife says no.
Uh-huh.
I would ask the listing agent, is your client willing to give up on this deal over $5,000?
Yeah.
How do we make this work?
Mhm.
Do we meet in the middle? You know, and you have to get creative.
Uh-huh.
But I love, are you giving up on this? Because people hate to give up on stuff.
Yeah.
They hate to be told that they're giving up.
Right.
So I love that verbiage.
Uh-huh.
Are your clients willing to give up on this deal
Uh-huh.
over $5,000?
Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Real play, employ the 3 Ps. I guess this is a piece of paper. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a couple minutes. Read over Jay, I don't know if you have this stuff printed out or not, or if you're looking at the guide, we're on page 14. Using what you've learned in the course and using the supporting materials, take 1 to 2 minutes to prepare for negotiating a counteroffer. Present your case to the partner and practice positioning. Go back and forth 2 times with the goal of a win-win agreement. So read through these real quick. I'm gonna go use the restroom and I'll be right back. Take a little break. And you guys are welcome to take a break at any time if you'd like. But read through these real quick and just kind of jot down how you would counter each of these scenarios. Okay. And if y'all want to partner up because you're here, you can. When you take buyer, you take listing, it's up to you. Whatever you feel comfortable with. But if you want to try it from both angles, go for it.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll check back with you guys in just a second.
What page that would be? Is it in
What
the
you're doing is countering these specific
like
scenarios.
Ignite
Go ahead, Jam.
element? What page that would be? Is in the element or is in the
Elements negotiate the deal, page 14.
14? Hold on a second.
Real play, employ the 3 Ps. That's going to be the page we're on.
Hold on. Then give me a second. Okay.
Sure, take your time.
Ignite 7th, right? This one is 7.
Correct.
No.
Yep.
No. I'm in the different section between the negotiating the deal.
Yep.
Mhm.
All right. I'll give you guys a couple minutes. I'll be right back.
Yes.
So I'm gonna be listening, you're gonna be live.
Okay.
Okay. So, virtual.
Yeah, let's see. You're gonna be the listing agent?
Then you said you want to go on the buyer side?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So I just need to hold my, I'll just read this. Okay, so Steve, hi, this is Natalie.
Oh, no.
I am, I have a client that is very interested in the house that you have listed at 123 Main Street.
Okay.
They, I don't know if you're doing this.
Okay, you get hung up.
Yeah.
That's okay. Are you on the buy side?
Yes,
Okay. And you're on the listing side?
yes.
Fantastic. So buyer agent role, your client has found the house they love and it's in the neighborhood they want. It is at the top of their price range and does need some work updating the kitchen and master bathroom. Your client makes an offer on the property and the seller's agent says, I must warn you that we've gotten several offers and your offer is pretty low. Okay.
Right.
Listing agent, your seller needs to move within 45 days due to a job transfer. You feel that you've priced the house competitively. You're aware the house needs updating, but the sellers don't see the need because the house was just fine for them. There have been multiple offers. The other offers are still standing, but the timing may not work for the seller. And the latest offer is lower than the asking price. You've let the buyer agent know, I must warn you, we've gotten several offers and your offer is pretty low. All right. So they're telling you as a buyer's agent, when you have this phone call, we got multiple offers, the price is low. The first thing I'm thinking is even though the price is low,
Right.
they haven't accepted another offer. They haven't accepted anything yet,
Right,
right?
right,
So that tells me that there could be something more important to that seller
of course.
than the price.
Yeah, yeah. Well, with them having to move within 45 days because of the job transfer and let's see, because.
Keep in mind, as the buyer's agent, you're not going to know that on the front end, right?
Yeah,
So the important piece is to seek to understand.
Mhm.
Understand why, because if they haven't accepted an offer, there's probably another underlying reason why they haven't, right?
Yeah.
So these guys may not be able to close for 60 days,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because financing right now is crazy
Mhm.
and your lenders are all backed up and appraisals are difficult to get in a timely fashion, so on and so forth, right?
Mhm.
So
Okay.
if you know that your buyer is solid, they've got a pre-approval, they're ready to go, they got all financing, they're ready to write that deposit check.
Right, okay.
Ask the listing agent, what are some other things that are important to your seller? They may tell you, they may not.
Yeah, okay.
But other than price,
Uh-huh,
what else is important?
yeah, okay, okay,
Is there anything I can do with my offer? Because they're probably not going to tell you,
yeah.
but it doesn't hurt to ask,
Okay,
right?
okay. Well, so my client is pre-approved for, I know that the asking price is $345, but they're approved for $325 and they can't do any better than that.
Right.
So, but what is important to your client? When do they hope to close?
So your clients are pre-approved and ready to, if we come up with an agreement, they're ready to move in?
Yes.
Within what time frame?
We could probably close in about 30 days.
Make sure you check with a lender too. Always check with a lender because they'll tell you, look, my deals are running 45 days right now. Especially if it's RD, good
So
Lord,
you
make
do
sure you,
that?
make sure you check, yeah. Huh?
Can you do that?
Check with the
So
lender?
Yeah, so.
Absolutely.
You know they're pre-approved, you would find out from the lender how many days they're out.
What's your time frame? Absolutely,
Yeah.
100% of the
Okay.
time, especially if you're doing RD or VA, because they can take a little bit longer. RD will always take longer, but VA too, it can take a little bit of time. Most of my FHAs are closing about 45 days right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So check with the lender, make sure that you can actually get them in that 30-day time frame,
Okay.
right?
Uh-huh.
And to what you said earlier, be careful how you word what they're pre-approved for, right? So,
Okay.
because if you're telling them that they're maxed out directly,
Right,
you could be
right.
putting yourself in a tricky scenario,
Okay,
right? So
okay.
instead of telling them, ask them,
Uh-huh.
right? Ask them, would it help if we were able to close in 30 days?
Uh-huh.
Would it help if we reduce the inspection period time?
Uh-huh.
So think about something like that rather than
Okay.
telling them, hey, this is where we're maxed out at.
Right.
You may have to, only
Okay.
because you know that your buyers really love this house,
Mhm.
but this is the max they can go. How else can we make this deal work? You may have to in the long run
Mhm.
have that discussion,
Mhm.
but try to avoid it on the front end and just
Okay.
ask the listing agent, would it sweeten the deal if we reduced our inspection period time?
Uh-huh. Okay.
Things like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I would absolutely talk to the lender and find out, because you're gonna need to know how long it's gonna take when you're writing your offer anyway.
Uh-huh.
Every time you write your offer, how long does it take to close? What's the max I can ask for in closing cost assistance? Do they need to buy down their rate, which right now probably is not an
When you say
issue.
closing cost assistance, what do you mean by that?
So asking the seller to pay up to X amount in closing costs and prepaids,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
those are all negotiable things that you need to ask or find out from the lender on the front end so that you can write your contract appropriately.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh. And then the appraisal takes place within the inspection.
It does not, typically does not, no. It can, it actually has recently for us, but it's been a weird scenario from the get-go.
Yeah.
Typically, it doesn't happen until after inspection period. Reason being is if you find some reason not to go forward with the contract, say for whatever, there's foundation issues you didn't realize in the beginning, you find that out in inspection, your client has then paid $500 for an appraisal that they don't need
Uh-huh.
because you're not going to go forward with the deal. So
Yeah.
typically I talk to the lender and say, hey, we're through inspection period, go ahead and order that appraisal, let's get moving.
Uh-huh.
So it's not going to happen in the same period of time.
Uh-huh. Okay. So everything could get on with the inspection, then you have an appraisal. And
Correct.
it comes in at, 15,000 less than what your client was willing to offer.
Okay, so your appraisal comes in 15,000 less
Uh-huh.
than the contract price.
Mhm.
That is now a listing agent responsibility. That's going to be on the listing agent side to tell. And you won't tell the other side what the listing agent, what the appraisal is, unless it is less than the contract price.
Right.
So if it's over, great, they got built-in equity.
Yeah.
But if not, then you're gonna have to have that conversation with them within 2 days or however long you write in your contract. It says
Yeah.
48 hours of mine typically. So within 2 days, you got to tell them, hey, this is the appraisal, this is the price. It gives them a chance to either challenge the appraisal or talk to the listing or talk to the seller and say, hey, we kind of knew this was going to happen. We're appraising it at 15,000, or this is out of the blue. I don't know if I trust this. This isn't matching my comps. And then you go from there, right? So that's a different snowball scenario. But nonetheless, if it does appraise for less, that's going to be on the listing agent to have that conversation.
Uh-huh.
But you also need to prepare your buyers for the fact that the listing agent or the seller side may not come down.
Right.
And then what do you do? Right? So then the buyer's got to come up with that 15,000 or
Yeah.
walk,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So that's important. It's a great question. It's a great scenario.
Uh-huh. Okay.
It is a lot of moving parts, but what I will tell you is just take it as it comes, right?
Okay.
Because I tend to do that too, like, oh my God, what happens if, but if you take it as it comes,
Uh-huh.
it's more bite size. It's a little bit easier to digest for sure.
Okay.
You're not drinking from the fire hose at
I
that
don't
point.
like doing the role playing.
Oh, I love it. I love it because it gives you an opportunity to
I know, to.
find how you would do it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Exactly, to be prepared.
Real life scenarios.
Because here's the deal. They don't, at Donaldson or whatever school you go to, they don't go over contracts. We don't go over any of this stuff, right? So this is brand new after a huge chunk of legal information has been crammed down your brain. This is completely new. So I understand that for sure. But role play and scripts, as cheesy and corny as it feels,
I know.
is so helpful.
Yes.
It really, really is.
It
Because
does.
you're bouncing off of somebody else who's either done it or has a different perspective.
Right. Yeah.
So you kind of get to see it from other sides too.
Yeah,
So I love that.
yeah. It does feel very cheesy.
It does. It's like being up in front of the class reading a book report, right? Like it's just kind of, it's awkward. It feels weird, but it won't when you're prepared for that scenario in front of a client. Because then you now have that confidence to go in with them and say, I've dealt with this before. Even if you haven't, you know the scenario, right?
Exactly, yeah. Okay.
I love it. I love it. Ahas to achievement. Let's see. This is a great question. So how has your thinking changed? Kind of going into what we were just talking about. How has your thought process changed regarding negotiations or what's possible or what you might run into? How has your thought process changed or has it changed in talking with one another in this very brief time that we've had together? Do you feel any differently about anything, or do you feel like you've maybe shifted your perspective a little bit on a certain scenario? Excuse me.
Seems like there's a lot of moving parts.
There are a lot of
More
moving
so
parts.
than when I first came into this class.
I feel like I've done you a disservice.
No, you're good. It's just, you're real good. No, stop that. But it just seems like it's a lot of moving parts, and then it seems like the role playing, like you were just saying, is going to be very helpful. Because we don't know what's coming.
Right.
But that's what's so good about having got people like you and others that we can bounce things off of. 'Cause
Absolutely.
everything's going to be new to us. So every scenario is gonna be new.
And look, you're gonna mess up and that's okay. That's okay,
Right.
right? Fail hard, fail fast. Gary Keller. But it's good because you learn from it. Everything that you do in these contracts, you're gonna learn from it. You will never stop learning. Every single transaction I've done has been a huge eye opener in some way or another. Right? So it's gonna be okay. I promise. I promise it's gonna be okay. Everything, and you guys, you're surrounded by so much support. So whether it's me or Bronwyn or whomever's in the office, do not hesitate to come and ask, hey, is this right? What would you do here? What are the limitations, right? It never hurts to ask.
How do I ask the right questions?
It's true. Hey, that's a great question. How do I ask the right questions?
Right. I don't know. Truly, I don't.
I think that we can certainly continue this if you'd like today, for sure. You
Can
wrap
I
this class
suggest
up.
something?
Go ahead, Jay.
Look, on this Ignite instruction, like for the new agent or even for me, somehow you can convince either Linda or some both office where maybe they just keep some kind of copy or a site where with the instruction name and number. Sometimes it's better to know the right person. I mean, I don't think we get in the beginning, hey, whom to call, but if most of the time we're gonna need a instructor who taught us that, and if we have somewhere access with name and number and the topic that discussed, we can say, hey, let me call this number.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jay. I think it's important too that you find an agent, either a seasoned agent or somebody who's been around for a little bit. I don't want to say latch on to because I think it's the wrong word, but find out how you can bring them value. Because I did this with two of our agents actually. The conversation was, hey, how can I bring you value? And the answer was scripts in the morning. So we set a script schedule, 7 a.m. Then that became our way to help each other, right? Because we all know real estate moves fast. It's a busy business. We've all got a lot going on, a lot of moving parts. But if there's a way that we can mutually benefit one another, then you've built that relationship with that agent and you'll be able to feel more comfortable with, hey, I've got a question.
Yeah.
And I still do that. I do it to Chris Morris all the time, Sue Derricks, Megan Helwig. Like if something comes up, I'm like, hey, what would you do about this? Stephanie McHugh, these guys are super, Charlotte Johnson. They're so helpful.
Yeah.
And they're always willing to help. And that's the thing. I've never had an agent in this office turn me away or make me feel less than or make me feel stupid. People will always be willing to help you. But Jay makes a good point. There should be a way to maybe more easily contact somebody. But because you guys are in Ignite or you're in the PC program, Anthony or Kristen are going to be your main go-tos.
Right.
And definitely leverage them. Use them as your guide to help you get through this. I don't know who is, do you guys have a direct coach? Is it Kristen or Anthony? Anthony, both of you? Okay. You know, Anthony was mine too, and he was super helpful. And I think that it's important to not only ask just him, but ask other people, get multiple perspectives. It's always important, but lean on your coach, guys, lean into that coaching program because it feels like a lot for that year, but once it's gone, you miss it. I miss it a lot. I miss having just
You're not gonna
that.
miss Anthony?
You are going to miss Anthony. I don't have to miss him because, you know, we talk a lot.
Is there a place or a site for the like Mandeville office or all 261 or agent business card is like you can access, hey, this is the one, this is the one, this is the one.
I thought there was in the agent, no, what is it? The KW, not KW Connect, whichever one it is. I thought there was a list of contacts at some point, but I don't know if that's been updated or how current that is, Jay.
Look, what I experienced is where our old site with KW, we were able to access to the office wise, but since most of the site is closed now, it's very difficult, like because old site doesn't working and all this command or any other site, but the old site we had all the regular number, anybody want to access, but not anymore. They may be, but I probably do.
I like to use, like if there's a specific agent I want to get into, I just use get in touch with, I use their Facebook page because almost all of us have a Facebook page, whether we want to or not. And it's going to have your phone number on it. So, or Google them because most of us are Googleable. Once you put your information out there as a realtor, it's pretty easy to find you. So if there's somebody in specific that you want to get in touch with, that's how I would do it. But Jay, you make a good point. I would maybe email Linda about that and see if there is somewhere. Linda or
Especially
Mandy.
for the new one, like, look, it's very difficult to, I'm saying my experience, like we learn everything, and then try to think, hey, whom I should call. But if you know that, hey, this been there or this teacher, like give you example, we have what you call the committee member. Usually we know them, but most of the time they're busy. You see what I'm saying? Like, so sometimes it's very difficult to get in touch with one of them.
That's okay. I did this the other day. I texted 3 different agents, and whoever answered me first was the one. And it's not because I value one over the other. It's because I do know that they're busy.
Right.
I texted them. I was trying to write an inspection response, and I texted 3 different agents and was like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Chris called me like 20 minutes later, and then Stephanie had texted me right back. Like, but then you've got multiple answers. You got different scenarios, and you know that it kind of reinforces that you're doing it right too when you get all those answers. But don't hesitate to reach out. I'm always available. I may not always know the answer, and I'm going to tell you, I have no idea. Please go ask this other person because I don't want to do anything to your detriment. But I love being able to help you guys. I love being able to talk through it for sure. Because a lot of times I learn. Yeah. I'll learn from that perspective too. Cool. What do you feel differently about? So how do you feel differently? I know you said that you feel like there's a lot more moving parts than when you walked in the door, but how do you feel about it? Do you feel more confident that you could negotiate better? Do you feel more intimidated? How do you feel?
I still feel intimidated.
Oh, I do too.
But I would still try to attack it.
It just makes me aware of all of the different questions you've got to ask.
Possibilities.
And also, I just wrote down the importance of role playing. That way you run into those, you ask different scenarios.
Yeah.
That way it don't look so foreign when you come against them.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. How will your behaviors be different going forward? So what will you guys do as far as taking action regarding negotiations? What are you going to do for your next step? What are your thoughts? Like, God, I really need to do this.
Maybe I always want to make a habit of call the other side before I dock or say, hey, is this still available? Just on the being safe side.
Yeah, absolutely. Always call the other side. Absolutely.
And that before writing.
I lost you. Sorry. So yeah, always call the other side. That's 100%. Definitely do that. Have that conversation on the front end.
Yeah.
But scripts and role play.
Yes, definitely.
They kind of beat it into you at Ignite.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't want to.
I know.
But do it.
Well, and the more obstacles you present in the role playing, of course, they're better prepared.
It's just like exercise, right? Like,
Yeah.
I know I could probably go in there and knock out 110 bench press, but
Right.
I'm not going to do it without practicing something.
Right.
I'm not going to, you got to start at 5 pounds. You got to go over the different scenarios to get to that point. Flex your muscles, exercise them.
Yeah. Steve and I have, gone through the Ignite program and I've gotten to know him pretty well. So I feel comfortable role playing with Steve and doing scripts and just need to make them a lot more difficult than just being so agreeable.
So this was told to me in the beginning of Ignite. First of all, I had the thought of scripts and role play in the beginning to me was just like, I'm not doing that. That is ridiculous. That is so stupid. I'm not doing that.
That's exactly how I feel.
But you will learn throughout the culture of this wonderful company that we work for is that is a limiting belief.
Yes.
You are completely doing yourself a disservice by shutting down on the front end. You've got to be open to learning a different scenario because you are not helping yourself in the long run.
No.
So it feels stupid, but it's not going to feel stupid when your commission is on the line. It's not going to feel stupid when your client's needs are on the line.
Ooh, that's a good point. Commission on the line. That's
Look, y'all got light bills and food y'all want to eat. Y'all got bills to pay.
Yeah.
It's not going to feel stupid whenever that's the real life scenario, right? And you're not going to feel better or more confident until you've done it, right? Until you felt that the way that's going to feel. Talk through that scenario. And I would highly recommend that you, as much as I love that you guys are comfortable and confident with one another,
Right.
find somebody else. Get somebody you don't like that you do feel intimidated by, because you're going to be intimidated by other agents.
Right.
You're going to be up against agents who've been doing this since the 80s, right? So
Right.
it's important. It's important.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. I love this. What tools, models, or systems would you definitely use? We just kind of beat that horse to death again. So I know that you guys do this because we did it. 10 contacts added, 10 conversations a day, 10 handwritten notes, and 10 home previews per week. How many homes are you guys getting into? Do you have any clients right now? Like, what's going on? No. Okay. Have you had any potential clients come up?
No,
How long have you guys been licensed?
well, I actually got my license 18 years ago, but it's been inactive until December.
You've been dipping a toe in the water for 18 years. huh?
No, I was unemployed when I got it, and then soon after I went back to work.
Gotcha.
And then I thought I never want to have to take the exam again, so
Mhm.
I just, you know,
Kept it active.
yeah.
Good
kept
job.
it inactive,
That's smart.
and then- Yeah, so it worked out.
Better to knock that out one time and never again. Agreed. 100%. Well done.
Yes.
So you've just recently become active this January, is that right? Or
In
December? Okay. And see,
Yeah.
what about you? How long have you been active?
5 weeks.
5 weeks? Oh, so you guys are super fresh.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
So
That's good.
I have previewed homes, I call it FISBOs,
Mm-hmm.
and had appointments. So I guess I had about 10-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured that's killing 2 birds with 1 stone and
Yeah.
possibly getting a listing too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Haven't gotten a
love.
listing yet though.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. I had a lease and a buyer, and then about 6 months later, a listing. So it'll come when it comes. Don't stress about it. But previewing homes is super important because it does help you understand what the market's doing. It helps you understand what's going on. So I like working with buyers for that very reason. I get to see, especially in New Orleans, I get to see everything that's kind of happening, what's trending, what people are willing to do, what's sitting on the market for a long time. Why is it sitting on the market? It allows you to really get familiar with that market and understand area preference, what's going on in that neighborhood. And for your next clients down the road, you're going to be able to understand and communicate that better to them too. So I really love home previews. Even if you're a stone cold listing agent, it's still important to get in homes and see what's going on because you don't know if you're not in there, right? So it's important. Are you guys doing handwritten notes? Do your notes. Do your notes. Do them. It's important. You'd be surprised.
Okay.
What about conversations? Are you guys lead genning?
Not been very good about that.
It's okay. Me neither. Full
All of
disclosure.
my confessions are coming out.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, no,
okay.
just really, I don't know. I've been great about attending classes.
That's wonderful.
But-
We don't pay you though.
I know, I know. And guess what? This is the last week of Ignite, so I'm nervous about next week.
Don't be nervous. Everything's
Uh-huh.
fine. Jay, how much business you got going on right now? What you got going on?
I'm probably gonna work with the buyer today. I have some buyer appointment today.
Good. Do you have any listings right now?
I have couple, like 2, but there's already been there a few months.
Okay. Are they commercial?
One commercial,
Gotcha. One residential?
yes,
I'm gonna look them up at some point.
it's a lease one. You can look at, there's a land, I mean, there's an exit right on
That's
the
a land.
exit. I need somebody to lease that land.
Okay. I'll look it up. All right. Well,
And-
I think we're about. Go ahead, Jay.
Well, if you have somebody looking for the home, like a 200 plus in range in Hammond, I have 2 FISBO. I can get in touch with them.
Hey, there you go. All right. All right. Lead generate, uncover motivations. And we've already talked about the importance of scripts and role play. Oh, this is the compliance thing, the do not call. Make sure that you guys are familiar with that. I'm not a cold caller, so it doesn't, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but just make sure you're familiar so you don't go to real estate jail. Let's see. Okay, this is just stuff we can do on our own time. All right. Jay, I'm going to sign off. Are you good? Do you have any questions?
No, that'd be good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Okay. This is me trying to figure out technology, so sorry.
And when you said earlier, that is intimidating. Knowing the other person on the other side is a seasoned real estate agent.
They'll be
I'd like to
nicer
tell
than
you I
you
wouldn't
think.
be intimidated, but I would.